meters. But what I'm hopefully convincing you of, if you haven't already been exposed to this before, is you are actually multiplying two things together. The first m is for milli, and the second one is for meters. So if I came over here and I would say, well, how many meters is this? I would say, well, I'll put a 19 for the number. And for milli, maybe I'll just leave it separate from the meter. And remember, this first m for milli means 19, and a milli means 1,000th, and then times a meter. And so when I go 19 times 1,000, it would be 0.019 meters. And it makes our unit system, I think, much more understandable when you realize that these are things multiplying together. This literally means take the number 19, multiply it by a milli, multiply it by a meter. And how you want to write it is kind of nice. You see the same thing here. Let me try this one. I mentioned kilo. Kilo means 1,000, but what symbol shall we use? K. Okay, well, with that in mind, if I come over here with kilometer, a good symbol would be the K for the 1,000, and then the M for the meter, and so then I have the km for my kilometer, or kilometer. But I'll say it, even if it sounds kind of funny, we don't really mean it's km together for kilometer. What we mean is it is a K times an M. And so again, if I were to say, well, I parked my car way on the other side of campus, and to get to it, I'm going to have to walk 1.1 kilometers. Okay, so I might say, all right, to walk over there, it's 1.1 kilometers. But if I wanted to know how many meters that is, I could write this as 1.1, and then I would be times a K times an M. And remembering that a K means 1,000, I could just change the K into a number and then have meters. And so then I would have 1.1 times 1,000, which makes 1,100 meters. And that's how I would convert it. And so the prefixes are really nice to work with. And so one thing about the metric system that you don't see with the empirical ones is anything that measures length is going to have the word meter in it. And then just how big or small is it is told to us by the prefixes. So I told you these 5 are important, and I've been working with the 3 most common ones. Let's throw in the other 2. Mega is another semi-common one. It means a million, which I'll just write as 10 to the 6th. And its symbol is a capital M. Notice I have to do a capital M now because I do have a lowercase m for the prefixes. So, capital M. Now if I jump back over here, then I would do this. I could say then, all right, so megameter would mean what? 1,000,000 meters. So for all of you out there who have never heard the word megameter, hopefully it's the first time you hear it, you know it's 1,000,000 meters right away. Because I know the prefix is mega, and I know meter measures length, and so it's a megameter. It's a long distance, and it measures length because it's got the word meter. And there's a lot of meters, there's 1,000,000 of them, because that's what the mega is. In fact, what symbol would I use for a megameter? Capital M for the million, for the mega, and lowercase m for the meter. And so if I told you the distance from Earth to, and I'm not real sure how far the satellites are, so I'm just going to make a number up, but if I told you 1 meg, I think they're less than 1 megameter, so maybe I better go to the moon or something. Moon is what, 240,000 miles? That's probably out of, I don't know how far it is. Why don't I just say, how about 102 megameters? But you see what I would do is I would go 102, and it would be mega times a meter, And then the mega would be a million. And then I would have 102 million, and I would multiply it out, meters. And that's how many meters it would be. It would be an easy way to convert it to that. Even for a word and a quantity, or excuse me, the quantity is length, but the unit I've never heard of before. Well, I'm going a little long on this, so let me go a little bit quicker here, and then we can wrap up this chapter. But the same thing would be here. What symbol would I use for centigrams? CG. And I would know, if I've never even heard it before, that it represents 100 of a gram. This one may or may not be common to you. You see it a lot in medicine. There's, medicine will be measured in things like centigrams. Same thing with medicine, will be measured in milligrams too. So you'll have a little mg, which means a thousandth of a gram. And so, what's Advil? Ibuprofen, and that's what, 200 milligrams, I think, of ibuprofen. So there's what kind of flashes to my mind first, the milligrams. And of course, then kilograms, which would be the symbol kg, which would be 1,000 grams. And again, remembering that the kilo means 1,000, this would probably be a good way to measure big things. That's why coming back over here, if you remember, I mistakenly got ahead of myself, and instead of saying my mass was 75,000 grams, I said 75 kilograms, but it would look something like this. I could say, let's write this as 75 multiplied by 1,000 multiplied by a g. But again then, what would 1,000 be? 1,000 could be written as a kilo. And so I can write this as a k times a g, or squish it together, and I get 75 kilograms. And so the prefixes are really nice to work with because they just mean a multiplication, and you can then change it, in this case, from grams to kilograms, or in some of these other cases, from millimeters to meters. And it's all just a matter of prefixes. And it gets even better. The prefixes are all multiples of 10. And usually multiples of 10 can be done in your head. And so because of that, converting from one to another is often done fairly quickly and in your head. At this point, I would say, don't worry about trying to do it in your head. Just write out what the symbols are as they ask you to convert it. And maybe to then wrap up this lecture and this chapter is, even though I haven't used seconds up here anywhere, is if you had never heard this before, megagram. First question would be, well, what does it measure? And hopefully the root word gram tells you mass. Okay. A lot of mass or a little bit of mass? Well, I guess it would be a lot of mass because I know mega is a million. So this would be a million grams. And what symbol would I use for this? Well, I would use capital M for mega and lowercase g for grams. And so it would be mega grams. And so that's the big stuff of this chapter. So let me wrap this one up here. This is the end of chapter 1. And what you need to do then is read chapter 1. And a lot what I have said will be in here. I've taken a little different approach, so it would be good that you see both of them. Take with the author. The author, like I said, does a few other things here in chapter 1 that I didn't do. For example, like I said, the author talks about what is physics and what is chemistry and how are they different. And then, of course, even some of the other disciplines. For example, what is history, what is art, and how science and art are different. And more than that, then how is physics different from, say, chemistry or astronomy and how they're related. But then it also goes into this stuff too. And this is the stuff that I really need you to understand, how to convert from centimeters to millimeters or from centigram to milligrams or kilograms. And then also, of course, this big pattern here. And I'll wrap it up here by saying, did you catch this? because I'm going to do this over and over again. We're going to start each lecture asking ourselves a new question. And we will start with one of these 5 or 2 of these 5. We'll recombine them and say, all right, what is this new idea? And of course, if you had never seen volume before, hopefully you see the logic that I'm going from trying to understand how much carpet would I need to how much volume would I need. And so it's a little more complicated. This is a whole new quantity. And so there's a new quantity, there's a new formula, there's a new unit, and there's a meaning to that quantity in the units. And it's those 4 steps that hopefully you saw there, because we're going to do those 4 steps every day. Every day we're going to come in and ask something new. Today we didn't ask anything new, I don't think. Maybe we looked at it a new way. But hopefully we also set you up for the future. All right, well, I'll call that good, and I will see you in the next lecture.